right, my dear children? So in this part we are discussing how to make a permanent magnet. We'll be discussing how to make a permanent magnet in this part. So here you'll be needing these materials in creating a permanent magnet. So you'll be needing iron nail, copper coil, Especially, my dear children, in this process or in this activity, we are discussing how to create a permanent magnet by using the electrical method. That's why we need a copper coil in this situation and a dry cell, right? So we are creating a permanent magnet by using the electrical method. So iron nail, copper coil, then this is the dry cell. So it's better to use a 9-volt dry cell because when supplying more electricity, more magnetic field can be generated, right? So when providing more amount of electricity, we can create a more powerful permanent magnet. Then we need a tape, file clips, a switch, paper, a piece of paper. So these are the materials which needed in conducting this activity. We need an iron nail, a copper coil, dry cell, a tape, some file clips, a switch, and a piece of paper. Right. So let's see how to conduct the activity. Now, in the earlier case, I told you how to create an electromagnet, right? This is somewhat similar to that process. So we'll see what is our method in creating this permanent magnet. So make a 5 centimeter long tube about the size of a pencil. So you have to make like this much of a distance, right? A tube, it should be a tube. Tube means we should have an ability to insert that iron nail inside that tube. Okay, so you instead of 5 centimeter thing, you can according to your iron nail or whatever the material that you are going to use, you can create that type of material or the tube, right? So you have to take that tube, right, so that you can insert the iron nail into it. So it not needed to be in 5 centimeters 5 centimeter of a length if you have a shorter iron nail, right? So using the piece of cardboard, now using the piece of cardboard or the piece of paper, you can use to make it to a tube. Wind the copper wire around that tube to make a coil. Now we need to wind that copper wire around that tube, that cardboard or the paper tube, right, to make into a coil. Okay, to make into a coil, we need to wind that copper coil around the tube. Then bring the iron nail close to the file clips to check whether it has magnetic power. Now first we need to check whether that iron nail which we are going to take have a magnetic effect or not, right? So first of all we need to check that thing. So you can take the iron nail near the file clips and see whether the file clips are attracting to the iron nail or not. So it's obvious that iron nails are not going to attract file clips. Even though they have magnetic properties, iron nail can't attract directly file clips, right? Because it is not going to behave as a magnet, right? Insert the iron nail into the cardboard or the paper tube, right? It's difficult to handle the cardboard, so therefore it's more convenient to use a normal paper. Okay, so insert the iron nail into the cardboard or the paper tube, scrap both ends of the coil and connect it to the dry cell and supply the current several times to the circuit. Okay, once again, see, insert the iron nail into the cardboard tube or the paper tube, scrap both ends of the coil. We need to scrap the both ends of the coil. I told you in the earlier case also, when we are identifying the effect of a electromagnet, right? When we are identifying temporary magnets. So in that part I told you, a copper coil usually contains some kind of an insulation. So we need to remove that insulation, right? Most of the times they are made up with plastic or PVC, right? So we need to remove that insulation. To remove that insulation, you can use a sandpaper or just you can use a knife or scratch it, right? So you have to scratch the two ends of the coil and connect it to the dry cell and supply the current. See, not just one time, it's really important. We need to supply the current several times to the circuit. We need to supply current several times to the circuit. Time by time, we need to supply current to the circuit, like for a longer time period. We need to supply for a longer time period, but in different intervals, right? So, take the iron nail or else the iron hacksaw blade is also can be used in this process. So that's why I put this thing. Now we use the iron nail, but you can use any kind of a metal in here, like a steel hacksaw blade, iron rod, a steel rod. So any kind of a material can be used instead of the iron nail. You don't need to find always an iron nail, right? This material is also going to work. What? A hacksaw blade, right? These hacksaw blades are used to cut the iron, right? So we can use that hacksaw blade as well, or else you can use an iron rod, right? So these materials can be used in making this permanent magnet by using the contact method. Okay, so take the iron nail or the iron hacksaw blade away and observe while bringing it closer to the file clips. So then after that we need to remove it, then we have to bring somewhat closer to those file clips which we took earlier, and then we have to observe what happens, right? So let's see, let's head out to the lab and see what is going to happen when we are going to make this apparatus in this situation and we bring near some file clips. Right, my dear children. Now, in this activity, we'll be discussing how to make a permanent magnet by using the electrical method. How we can make a permanent magnet by using the electrical method. So, in this method, in making a permanent magnet, we'll be needing these materials. So, a copper wire, right? A copper wire. Then some pins, right? Some pins. An iron nail. So it's wise to use a smaller iron nail, because when you take a smaller iron nail, it's easy to embed the magnetic field quite easily, and it will take less time to embed the magnetic field if you use a smaller iron nail like this. And a cardboard sheet is the one which we need, but it's difficult to wrap the coil around a cardboard sheet. So I have used here a piece of PVC pipe, so that I can wind this copper coil quite easily around the PVC pipe. So it's okay to use a cardboard one as well, but still it would be difficult to wrap the coil because the cardboard sheet may get bent here and there. Okay, and some connecting wires, right, and a dry cell. So this is a 9-volt dry cell. So it's good to use a more powerful dry cell in this situation or in this activity. So we could get our necessary observations quite easily and quickly. So first of all, I'm going to show you that when I'm going to take this iron nail and I'm going to direct it toward these small pins. So you can see that there is no such attraction between the pins and the iron nail, the smaller iron nail that I have in my hand, right? It's because that this one is not showing any magnetism, means that this iron nail do not show any magnetism and it doesn't carry any magnetic power. So you can see it obviously, you can see it very clearly. It doesn't show any magnetism or magnetic field. There is no magnetic field around it and it is not getting attracted. The pins are not getting attracted towards this iron nail, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this PVC cover and once again, like in the earlier activity where we wrapped the coil around the nail, in the same way we are wrapping this coil around the PVC covering like this. So always remember, in the earlier activity also I told you this thing, these wires, these copper strings or copper wires are insulated. So when you are going to connect these to an electric source, remember to clean the two edges by using a sharp material, or else you can use a piece of sandpaper as well, right? So we'll wrap the coil around it. Right. Okay. Right, children. So now I have wrapped the coil around it, but you can see that the coil is getting escaped from the PVC. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give out a bend so that it won't escape. Okay. Right. So now I have prepared my coil. Once again, I'm going to show you that this iron nail do not show any attractions with the pins in here. Okay. See, doesn't show any attraction. And now I'm going to insert this into the PVC tube like this and keep it in a steady position. And I'm going to take my dry cell and connect the dry cell to the coil like this. So we'll use the wires and we'll connect the two terminals. Right. Now let some time to pass by and we'll observe whether the iron nail, that small iron nail, has got the magnetism or not. Right, my dear children. Now I have waited for some time. Now let's see. Now let's disconnect the circuit and let's see whether the pins are getting attracted to this iron nail or not. Now you can clearly observe that there are some pins which are getting attracted to the iron nail and these pins are even not getting fallen down. See, these pins are getting strongly attracted towards my smaller smaller iron nail. See, can clearly observe the iron nails are getting attracted. These smaller pins are getting attracted towards the iron nail. So that means now in the earlier case, which I have used just the iron nail without inserting it into this system, right? Without inserting into this system, I have just shown you how it is going to behave. So it doesn't going to attract any pins in the earlier case, but now you can clearly observe. Now you can clearly observe this iron nail can attract several pins from the system over here. So means that this iron nail is behaving as a permanent magnet right now. So this is the way of creating a permanent magnet by using the electrical method. So we'll discuss another method in making a permanent magnet, right, when we go with the further things with the lesson. Okay, my dear children, so we made our permanent magnet by using the electrical method. So this is that figure. Here you can observe the iron nail or the hacksaw blade or the iron rod. So this, I'll name this thing as iron nail because we took an iron nail in creating this permanent magnet. So this is the paper tube, and inside it you can observe once again this iron nail, right? So and we are connecting these terminals, to the dry cell to supply electricity. And I told you that, we are discussing earlier, I told you that we need to supply electricity for a longer time period, but in different intervals, several times, right? So our observation was, when we remove the dry cell and we take that hacksaw blade or the iron nail or the iron rod and we need to keep it near the file clips. So in that situation we can observe the file clips are going to attract towards the material or towards the iron nail in our situation, right? So my dear children, we can finally get a conclusion from this experiment that this material, means in our case the iron nail, is behaving as a permanent magnet, right? Here the electricity, when electricity is being removed from the system, even though the electricity is being removed from the system, at that time also the magnetic field can be observed, right? So this behaves as a permanent magnet. So conclusion, when electricity is given to the circuit for a long time until permanent magnetism is observed, iron nail act as a permanent magnet. So that's the conclusion that we can come up with this experiment. It's important to provide current for a longer time period in different time intervals. It's because that permanent magnetism can be observed only when providing electricity for a longer time period. We are embedding. We need to embed the magnetic field onto the material or else to the iron nail in here. So it's really important to provide current for a longer time period. Okay, right. So this is the final conclusion that we can come up with this experiment. When electricity is given to the circuit for a longer time, see, longer time is important, until the permanent magnetism is observed. Here the permanent magnetism is observed when providing current for a longer time. Iron nail, in this situation, then iron nail act as a permanent magnet. So this is how to create a permanent magnet by using the electrical method. Right, my dear children. Now let's move on to the next part and we'll see what are the important factors which are needed in making a permanent magnet by using the electrical method. Okay. So essential factors when making a permanent magnet using electrical method. right? So we should consider some essential factors in making a permanent magnet using the electrical method, right? Now we'll see what are those essential factors. So if you are referring to the lesson part very well, in the earlier slide you could observe that I have provided the current to the circuit in different occasions for a long time period. In different occasions for a long time period. So those are the two main essential factors which we need to consider in making a permanent magnet by using electrical method, right? We need to provide current for a longer time period. We need to provide current in different time intervals, right? We need to provide current for a longer time period. We need to provide current in different time intervals. So those are the two main essential factors we need to consider when making a permanent magnet by using electrical method. Right, my dear children? So let's write what are the things which are important in making a permanent magnet by using the electrical method. Right. So I told you earlier, it's really important to consider about the time period which the electricity is being provided and the number of times which the electricity being provided, right? So we'll write down those two important factors. So these factors are really important in making a permanent magnet by using the electrical method. It's because that when you change these factors time to time, or when you change these factors, the magnetic field of the permanent magnet which we are about to create is also going to differ. If you use more time period, or if you are going to take more time period to supply electricity, then you will have a better permanent magnet with a good magnetic field. And if you are going to provide electricity with a higher value for several times, in that situation also you can get a good permanent magnet with a good magnetic field, right? A strong magnetic field. So that's the aim of creating a permanent magnet. We need to keep the magnetic effect or the magnetic field of the magnet for a longer time period, right? And also it should have a good magnetic effect, good strength, right? So we'll write down the 2 points. Number 1 is number of times which the electricity is given to the circuit. Is given number of times which the electricity is given to the circuit. This is the first one, number of times which the electricity is given to the circuit. So when supplying electricity more times, right? When supplying electricity when supplying electricity to the circuit more and more or else in several times, in that situation we can create a magnetic field that has a more strength, right? So the second one is the time that we are going to pass electricity from the coil. So when increasing the number of times, I told you that the magnetic field is going to increase, no? But however, it's not valid if you are going to keep the current flow time in a shorter time period, to a shorter time period. Means that you have to provide current for somewhat longer time period, right? For a somewhat longer time period, at least like 5 minutes. At least for about 5 minutes, you keep the current flow, right? So that is also really important, the time period which the current is going to be provided through the circuit. Now, at least for 5 minutes, we can take some amount of a magnetic field within the material. But if you can keep for a longer time period rather than the 5 minutes, then we can get a more strong magnet. So the next one is, it's useless. I mean, it's useless to provide it's useless to provide less amount of electricity, but in different time periods or in several times. When you are providing this electricity in several times, make sure that time period which the current is passing through the coil, right? With the time period which the current is passing through the coil, make sure to increase that time period at least for about 2 to 3 minutes. It's at minimum about 2 to 3 minutes, but it's good to provide electricity for about 5 minutes in one time interval. Okay, right. So the next one is time period which the current is given to the circuit. So the first one is number of times which the electricity is given or the current is given to the circuit, and the second one, the time period which the current or the electricity is given to the circuit, right? Here I have specially mentioned current. It's because that more and more the amount of current, more the magnetic field. That's why we have to use that 9-volt dry cell to provide more amount of current. So it's important to increase the current also with the time period. Okay, so these are the two main important factors that are essential in making a permanent magnet using the electrical method. Right. Okay, my dear children, now we are about to discuss how to make a permanent magnet here, but by using the contact method. So you are familiar with this activity. In the earlier part or in earlier chapters, when we are discussing about the compass, we did the contact method to create a magnet, a small magnet, right? So making a permanent magnet using the contact method. So you'll be needing these materials then. We'll need these materials in conducting the activity. So first one, we'll need a needle. We'll be needing a needle. Then a bar magnet. Then some file clips. So these are the materials which we need in making this small permanent magnet. Okay, we'll be needing a needle, a bar magnet, and some file clips to observe the magnetic field. Okay, so let's see what is the method in creating this bar magnet, this simple permanent magnet. So method. So I think you remember in making that simple compasses, we have rubbed the magnet against the needle, but to a same direction like this. So place the needle horizontally on the table. So we need to place the needle horizontally on the table like this. You can keep it like this, the needle. Place one end of the bar magnet on the needle and drag it along the same direction as per to the figure. So you can take the north pole or else the south pole, whatever the pole you like. So I'll use the south pole, right? I'll use the south pole in here, or else if you want you can use the north pole as well. So south pole. So you have to place the south pole or the north pole and you need to drag it like this to a same direction. We should drag it to a same direction. If you rub it here and there, then we can't observe a magnetic field which is effective. Okay, so make sure you rub it against to a same direction like in the figure in here. See, in here also he is going to drag the magnet to a same direction like this. See, we need to complete a circle like this. So this is the way of making contact. This is the way of making contact the permanent magnet on that needle. Okay, we need to drag it to a same direction. Remember it. Right. Repeat this process several times. Now we need to repeat this process for a several time, for a longer time period. Okay. We need to repeat this process for a longer time period for several times. And now bring the needle close to the file clips and see what happens. Okay. Now we need to bring those file clips near the needle and observe, and we are going to observe what is going to happen those file clips. So it's clear to us that in making contact the permanent magnet with the needle is going to become a permanent magnet. The needle is going to become a permanent magnet. So in that scenario, the file clips would attract to the needle head quite easily, right? So we'll head on to the lab and see whether this activity can be done to make a permanent magnet. Right, children? Now in this activity, we'll be discussing how to make a permanent magnet by using the contact method. How to make a permanent magnet by using the contact method. Now in the earlier activity, we discussed how to make a permanent magnet by using the electrical method. Now here we are using the contact method to make a permanent magnet. So you could remember when we are making a simple toy compasses, right? We use this contact method in making a permanent magnet. So in the same way, what you have to do, you have to take a needle, right? You have to take a needle. So first of all, I am going to show you that this needle doesn't show any magnetic properties. So I am going to take it near some pins like this, and you can see that the needle doesn't show any magnetic properties. It can't attract any pins. See, it can't attract any pins. So it doesn't show any magnetic properties. See, those things are not getting attracted. So now what I am going to do is, I am going to take the permanent magnet and I am going to place it like this kind of a position, and now I am going to contact or rub the magnet to a same direction by using a same pole like this continuously for some time. Always remember, the longer you are doing this thing, then you will be making a more powerful magnet, and the number of times you are doing this, then you are making a more powerful magnet. If you are making if you are turning or if you are rubbing this magnet against the needle for longer time period or in more number of times, in both of the situations you can create a more powerful magnet. So I'm going to rub it like this. Now let's see whether the needle can attract these pins right now. Now you can see that the needle is getting attracted to these pins. See, you can see that large number of pins are getting attracted to this needle head. See, so even I am going to shake this thing, right? Even I am going to shake this thing, but still those pins going to hold with the needle. It's because that now the needle is behaving as a permanent magnet. So in the earlier case, needle haven't got any ability to attract these pins, right? You could observe it doesn't show any attraction with the pins, but now it's directly getting attracted, and quite easily it is getting attracted, and also you can see that large number of pins are also getting attracted to the needle. So means that this needle is behaving as a permanent magnet. So this is the way of creating or building up a permanent magnet by using the contact method. So you have to remember these two things when you are making a permanent magnet by using the contact method. Always use the same direction to rub the magnet against the needle, and always use the same pole in rubbing it. And the other thing is that if you want, you can increase the number of times which the magnet is going to contact with the needle, and or else if you have enough time, or you can apply or you can rub the magnet for a longer time period with the needle, right? It's important to do those two. It's because that when you are rubbing it against more and more with the magnet, so you can get more magnetic power, right? So this is how to make a permanent magnet by using the contact method. So we observed, I think you could observe the experiment. We did it and we observed that those file clips are going to attract to the needle when we are conducting the activity. So our observation is file clips are attracted to the needle. So we can see that file clips are getting attracted to the needle. So our conclusion is finally a permanent magnet can be created, or a permanent magnetism is observed in this setup, right? When we are contacting this magnet around the needle. So needle behaves as a permanent magnet. So we can write the conclusion: needle has become a permanent magnet. Needle has become a permanent magnet. So this is the final conclusion that we can come up with the experiment, right? So this is how to create a permanent magnet by using the contact method. Okay, Right, my dear children? So let's see what are the important factors which we need to consider in making this permanent magnet by using the contact method, right? So if you have listened to the experiment, or if you have listened and observed the experiment very well, then you could see that, then you have observed, I think you have observed the two important factors in making a permanent magnet by using the contact method. Those two factors are, we need to rub several times, we need to rub several times the magnet on the needle, right? We have to drag, or we have to rub it several times. We have to rub the magnet several times on the needle, right? We have to rub it several times on the needle. That's the first case. But the thing is that if we are going to just take the magnet and we are going to drag just a one time and keep it, and once again coming again dragging one time and keep it, in that kind of a case, that is also useless. No matter how many times you are going to do no matter how many times that you are going to do that kind of a thing, it's useless, because when you are dragging it, at least for some time period, like for about 1 or 2 minutes, you have to drag it, right? So the time period is also really important. So the time period is also really important in this thing, right? So the essential factors, we can write it like this, right? We can write it like this. Number one, here, number of times which the magnet was rubbed against the needle, right? Number of times which the magnet was rubbed against the needle. This is the first important factor, right? So the next point is the time period. So we have to apply, or we have to rub the magnet for a longer time period. So when you rub it for a longer time period, more magnetic field can be observed. Okay, right? So next one is time period which the magnet was rubbed against the needle. So this is the second one. So the first factor is number of times which the magnet was rubbed against the needle, and the second factor is time period which the magnet was rubbed against the needle. So these two factors are important in making the permanent magnet using the contact method. When increasing these two factors, or if you increase the number of times of these two factors, then we can create a more powerful permanent magnet with a powerful magnetic field, right? So this is the way of creating permanent magnets by using the electrical method and by using the contact method. Okay, right? So you are given with a question, you have been asked with a question. See, does the magnetic power of a permanent magnets retain forever? This the magnetic power is going to retain forever, right? means that if you take a permanent magnet, the name indicates a permanent magnet. Permanent means long lasting. So when you take a permanent magnet, right, does the magnetic field or the magnetic power last forever? So the answer is no. The answer is no. Then why it is named as a permanent magnet if the magnetism is going to lose for some time? The thing is that it's not in a permanent magnet, magnetic field or the magnetism is not going to lose within short time period. Like if you have a permanent magnet today, and if you take the same magnet on tomorrow, the magnetic field will not be, the magnetic field will remain as the same. It's not getting depleted within just 1 or 2 days. That's why it is referred as a permanent magnet. But there are some certain situations in which a permanent magnet may lose the magnetic field within a certain time period. So that is why those things are referred as permanent magnet. And in a permanent magnet also, the magnetism can be depleted, but it takes longer time, right? So when you take a permanent magnet, the magnetic effect or the magnetic power is not going to last for a longer time. That's the answer for our question, right? So the answer is no. The magnetic power of permanent magnet are lost due to various reasons. So the magnetic power will depleted due to various reasons, right? So now I'm going to tell you what are those reasons. So I told you earlier, if I'm going to take a permanent magnet today, and when I'm going to take the same magnet on tomorrow, the magnetic field will not lose. But that statement is not correct for a certain amount. For certain extent, that statement is not correct. It's because that really small, like it is uncountable, really small bit of a magnetic field is going to be depleted from the permanent magnet day by day. But it is very small, right? Means that if I'm going to take a magnet today, and if I can attract like 100 file clips onto it, then on the next day also I can attract about 100 file clips. But the thing is that when you take the same magnet, after 2-3 years, not from days, but from years, when you take it from 2-3 years, in that kind of a situation, definitely the number of file clips which are getting attracted to the magnet after 2-3 years will be less than 100. It's because that after that kind of a time period, I told you that day by day the magnetic field is going to drop in very smaller amounts, no? But when you take it for a longer time period, like in hours, like in years, when you take it for a longer time period, like in years, that smaller ones will get collected each other to create a very large value. So large amount of magnetic field is getting depleted when several years are going to pass by. So the first factor which helps to deplete the magnetic field is the aging process. So the first factor is aging. Aging, right? When time is going to pass by, right? When more and more time is going to pass by, the magnetic effect of a permanent magnet is going to lose, right? Then the next factor is, now you can do it at home also. You take a small magnet and see how much of file clips or how many iron nails it can attract, right? When you place that magnet near a near some iron file clips or near some iron nails, see how much of how much of iron nails or file clips can be attracted to it. Then drop it several times on the floor or else hammer it on the floor and observe how many file clips are getting attracted at this time. Definitely the number will be reduced. So if a permanent magnet is going to subject with high vibrations, means that if it is going to fall down or if it is being hammered, then in that kind of situations the magnetic power will get depleted. So it's essential to keep permanent magnets away from falling and away from any other vibrations. Okay, so the second one is subjecting to vibrations. Subjecting to vibrations. This is the second case of depleting magnetic field of a permanent magnet. Then the next one, it's not good to heat permanent magnets. If the permanent magnets are being heated or else if they are subjected to high temperature, in that case also the magnetism would reduce, right? So this is the third factor, right? Subjecting to high temperatures. Okay, right. Subjecting to high temperature. Subjecting to high temperature. And the final factor or the final way of depleting magnetic field in a permanent magnet is if you subject the smaller magnet, if you subject a smaller magnet to a very large magnetic field, if you subject a magnet to a very large magnetic field, in that case also the magnetic power will be depleted. In that case also magnetic power will deplete. So powerful magnets can be used to make magnets, permanent magnets. And also powerful magnets can also be used to destroy magnetism in a permanent magnet, right? We can use powerful magnets in two different occasions, which in these two different occasions, right? We can use these powerful magnets. We can use powerful magnets in creating permanent magnets and as well as in destroying permanent magnets. In both of these occasions we can use these powerful magnets. Okay, so the next one is, my dear children, what? Subjecting to high subjecting to higher magnetic field. These are the ways in which the magnetism or the magnetic field in a permanent magnet, right? The ways which the magnetism in a permanent magnet can be depleted. So these are the ways. First one is aging, subject into vibrations, then subject into high temperature, then the final one subject into high magnetic field. So now let's move on to conduct an activity, right? So first of all, I'm going to let you know how the way of doing the activity. So let's move on to check whether these factors can deplete the magnetism in a permanent magnet. So let's move on and see how to conduct this activity. So first let me explain the activity, then we'll head on to the lab and we'll conduct the activity. Okay, so here we are going to examine how magnetic power reduces in a permanent magnet. How the magnetic power reduces in a permanent magnet. So you will be needing these materials. So you know this thing, right? You'll be needing an iron nail, right? Then you will be needing file clips. If you don't have file clips, then you can get some pins like drawing pins, right? You can take anything, right? Like pins, okay? Any material that is getting attracted to a magnet, right? Then you'll be needing a Bunsen burner. If you don't have a Bunsen burner, you can find anything that can provide a certain amount of temperature. I mean, like, you have to heat it. The thing is that we have to heat the magnet in order to see whether the magnetism is going to deplete or not. So to provide an optimum temperature, so we'll be using a Bunsen burner. If you don't have a Bunsen burner, you can find out a spirit lamp or else some kind of kerosene lamp also, right? Then here you will be needing a hammer and you know that we can't handle the magnet by using our hands. So we will be needing forceps. Right? We'll be needing forceps. And you know, we'll be needing a permanent magnet. Actually, you'll be needing several permanent magnets. You'll be needing several permanent magnets, at least like 3, right? It's because that here we are using these magnets to check whether magnetism is getting depleted or not. So after using one magnet to check one certain method, we have to throw it away. We can't use it once again. So you need at least 3 permanent magnets. Okay, right? So permanent magnets. So within brackets, I'll include like 3. So these are the materials you'll be needing. Okay, so you'll be needing an iron nail, file clips, Bunsen burner, hammer, pair of forceps, and several permanent magnets, at least like 3. So let's then move on to how to conduct this activity, right? And we'll discuss what is the method of doing this activity, right? So we'll head on to do the method. First, bring the magnet near the file clips and observe how many are getting attracted to the magnet. And now, first of all, we need to take that magnet, right? We need to take that magnet, okay? And we have to see whether how many number of file clips are getting attracted, or how many number of iron nails are getting attracted, how many pins are getting attracted to that magnet. Okay, that's the first step. So then heat the magnet very well and let it cool. Now we need to heat the magnet. what we have to do is we have to heat the magnet in the next step. So heat the magnet very well and let it cool. Then we have to cool it down. Okay. Now bring the magnet near the file clips and observe how many are attracted. Now we have to bring that heated magnet towards the file clips or the drawing pins or whatever the iron nails. Then observe how much of a number is getting attracted to this magnet. See how much is getting attracted. So definitely the count will reduced. So repeat the above steps again by taking 2 more magnets separately. Make sure you count the number of file clips that the magnet can attract before subjecting it to vibrations or to high magnetic field. Now, if you don't have several magnets, you can use the same magnet. No problem. You can use the same magnet. But make sure to count the number of pins or the iron nails which is getting attracted to the magnet before it is going to subject to other factors like the vibrations or else the high magnetic field. So in figures also you can observe what we are going to do in here. So first thing is, by using the crucible we can heat the magnet very strongly heat the magnet like this. So heating strongly. The next one, subjecting to vibrations, we can drop the magnet to the ground several times, or else by using that hammer we can hammer it down. Then by using other types of magnets, we can subject it to a high magnetic field, like in here, subjected to high magnetic fields, and we can observe how much of iron nails are going to attract, how much of iron nails are going to attract for the magnet after conducting each of these activities, right? But make sure to count the number of pins which are getting attracted before doing this. So by that way only we can compare the number, we can come into a conclusion about the magnetic field, right? So therefore remember to count the number of pins or the number of iron nails which are getting attracted before doing each of these activities to the magnet. This is the way of doing the experiment then. So we'll move on to the lab and we'll see whether the magnetism is going to deplete or not in each of these instances. Right, my dear children, now let's see the next activity to check how the magnetism is going to deplete in a permanent magnet. So once again I have a different permanent magnet here with me, right? So now I'm going to take this magnet towards the pins and I'm going to show you that this magnet can attract large number of pins towards it. See, it can attract several pins, means that there is magnetism. It can attract several pins, means that there is magnetism on this magnet, right? Okay children, now I'm going to drop these things down. So I have some powerful magnets with me right now. So I told you in the earlier situation a few while ago, I told you that these magnets are made from ferrite, right? And these are more powerful magnets. These magnets are made from ferrite and these are more powerful magnets. That's why they are black in color. This ferrite material is black in color, iron oxide, right? So these are more powerful magnets, right? These are more powerful magnets. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this magnet in a position like this, and I'm going to keep the other magnet over it like this, right? And I'm going to keep it for some time and to check whether the magnetism is going to deplete or not after it has been subjected to high magnetic field, right? So I'll keep it like this way. I'll give some time for the apparatus, right? Then we'll check whether the magnet can attract these pins or not. Right, now I have placed this apparatus for some time. Now I'm going to take this. Now let's see whether this magnet can attract these pins or not. So once again you can observe that none of the pins are getting attracted towards the magnet in here. The attraction is very less. Now in the earlier situation you can observe that large number of pins or more number of pins were attracted. But in this case, see, we can't observe. Not even a slight attraction couldn't be observed. See, not even a slight attraction. Not even a slight attraction. So this permanent magnet has depleted the magnetism or the magnetic power because it was subjected to a high magnetic field given by these ferrite magnets. So we can finally conclude that the magnetism of a magnet can be depleted due to, or we can deplete the magnetism or else the magnetic field of a permanent magnet by subjecting the magnet to a higher magnetic field, right? So these are the ways of depleting magnetic field in a permanent magnet. When a magnet is being hammered, or we can say that when a magnet is being subjected to greater vibrations, right? When a magnet is being subjected to greater vibrations, the magnetism is going to deplete. And when it is being subjected to a greater heat energy, or if you are going to heat up the magnet, in that kind of a situation also the magnetism or the magnetic field will lose from it, right? And the third condition is when the magnet is being subjected to a higher magnetic field, a stronger magnetic field, in that kind of a situation also the magnetic power is going to lost. So these are the ways, the main ways of depleting the magnetic field. But there is another way. Now when you take these magnets, especially steel magnets, if you are going to use it for a longer time period, if you take a steel magnet like this and if you are going to use it for a longer time period, like in years, right? Not for a day or two, but for years. Now in that kind of a case also, the magnetism would reduce. It's because that when a magnet is going to age, or when time is going to pass by and a magnet is going to age, not in days or months but in years, like that kind of a case also the magnetism would reduce in a permanent magnet. So there are 4 factors which can deplete the magnetism of a magnet. So those factors are aging. Aging means when the time is going to pass by, the magnetism is going to reduce. And the second one, when a magnet is being subjected to vibrations, or when you hammer it, or if you drop down a magnet several times to the ground, then in that kind of a situation also magnetism would deplete. And the third case, if you heat up a magnet, or when a magnet is subjected to a greater heat energy, right? In that kind of a situation also the magnetism would reduce. And if a magnet is being subjected to a greater magnetic field, in that situation also we can observe the magnetism would deplete. So these are the ways of depleting magnetic field or the magnetism in a permanent magnet. Right, my dear children. Now in this activity we'll be discussing, if I'm going to take a permanent magnet like this, what are the possible ways of depleting magnetic power or the magnetism in this permanent magnet? So, to investigate the methods of depleting magnetic power of a permanent magnet, we'll be using different types of methods, right? First of all, I'm going to use this hammer and I'm going to hammer on the permanent magnet and to see whether how much of pins are going to attract. So here I'll be mentioning less or more the attraction of pins less or more when it is being hammered, or when after it is being hammered and before it is being hammered. And once again I am going to use this spirit lamp and I am going to heat up this permanent magnet and to check how much of pins are getting attracted to the magnet before and after the burning process or the heating process. Then I have some magnets. See, these magnets are very strong. These magnets are very strong. If you take this magnet, right, in this magnet you can see there is some bit of a shine, right? There's a bit of a shine in here, right? It's because that this is made up with steel. There's a bit of a shine in here, in this edge, right? It's because that it is made up with steel. I can show it to you by scratching it by using a piece of sandpaper. Right. Now, see, you can clearly observe there is a shine. It's because that this magnet is made by steel. So rather than the steel magnets, if you take these black color magnets, these are black in color. No matter when you scratch this thing, right, we can't see any shine. See, we can't see any shine. It's black in color. Even you can see the stains on my finger as well. See, it's black in color, right? Means that this is made up with ferrite. You know that ferrite is a good magnetic material and it is being used to make permanent magnets, right? So this is ferrite or iron oxide, a good alloy to make permanent magnet, right? So these magnets are very strong. So now in the third case I am going to subject this permanent magnet, which is made up with steel, to this strong magnetic field, and I am going to observe how much of pins is getting attracted to the magnet before and after subject it into a higher magnetic field. Now let's conduct the activity and see whether by using these ways whether we can fade off the magnetic field of this permanent magnet or not. So first of all, I am going to show you that this magnet has a certain magnetic effect or magnetic power. So when I am going to take, see, when I am going to take this thing, you can observe several pins are getting attracted. See, you can observe large number of pins are getting, or more number of pins are getting attracted in this case. So now what I am going to do is, I am going to take a wooden stripe and I am going to hammer it well. And to observe whether these things are getting attracted to the magnet or not. So you can see that even though I am going to keep near the magnet, just only a one pin is getting attracted. Now that one also fell down. See, it can't attract the pins. just a one single pin is getting attracted at just a at the end, right? So here we can say that after I have hammered, very less number of pins are getting attracted to the magnet, and before hammering large number of pins were attracted, or more number of pins were attracted, right? Right. So you can observe that this magnet can't attract any pins. So you can see that once again this magnet can't attract any pins. Just a one single pin is getting attracted, but it is also getting slightly attracted. See, it is getting slightly attracted, right? Very slightly attracted. It's because that after hammering, the magnetic effect or the magnetism has been depleted from the magnet, from this permanent magnet. So now we'll have to use a different magnet once again. We have to use a different magnet once again to find out the other effects or other ways of depleting magnetism. Right, my dear children? Now I have taken another separate magnet. So I'm going to show you that this magnet has some magnetic effect. See, can attract several number of pins. Large number of pins are getting attracted to this magnet. You can observe it clearly. And now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take this spirit lamp, right? And now I'm going to light up the spirit lamp. Okay, so I have light up the spirit lamp, and now I am going to burn or heat up this magnet, right? And to check whether it is getting attracted or not, right? We'll heat up then. Right, so we need to heat up this thing like this. And now let's see whether this magnet can attract the pins or not. Okay. So here you can see that after the magnet has got heated, it can't attract any of these pins. Just one, but it's also slightly. See, difficult to attract just one piece of pin. It partially getting attracted and once again it's falling down. See, so here partially, you can see that partially getting attracted. Now you can observe just one single piece of now once again it fell down. So you can see that after this has got heated, the magnetic power has reduced, or the magnetic power has been fade off. So you can say that when the magnets are subjected to heat energy, the magnetism is going to deplete, or the magnetic power is going to reduce. Now we have to throw away this magnet also. So most of the times when we are conducting these experiments related to depletion of magnetism, we'll be using some older magnets, because after destroying the magnetism, there is no use of these magnets. So I have to throw it away, right? So we'll use a different magnet, and we'll conduct another experiment to check how the magnetism is getting depleted in a permanent magnet. Now we conducted the experiment, my dear children. Now we are going to write down our observations. So to write down the observations, I have given you a table, right? So here we need to count the number of pins which are getting attracted, right? Okay, so I'll mention the observations now when we are conducting this experiment. According to the type of magnet, right? According to the type of magnet, the amount of iron nails which are getting attracted will be less or more. Means that we can't say it to a certain count. When I'm doing the experiment, I got a certain number. But when you are doing the experiment, you will get a different number. So I'll mark in here as less or more, right? Okay, so action done, hammering. Number of pins attracted before the action. Before the action, we could observe more pins are going to be attracted to the magnet. So we can mention more. I'll use a different color so that you can observe it clearly. More pins. More pins. So more pins are attracted before the action. So number of pins after the action, it reduces. So less number of pins. Less number of pins are attracted, right? Less number of pins are attracted after doing hammering, right? After hammering to the magnet, less number of pins are getting attracted, right? So when heating also, you could observe more pins are getting attracted and less number of pins are attracted after heating. So more number of pins are attracted before it is heated and after it is heated, right? After it is heated, we can observe less number of pins getting attracted. So the next one is subjecting to strong magnetic field. Once again, more pins are attracted when it is subjected to, before it is being subjected to strong magnetic field, and less number of pins are attracted when it is being subjected with high magnetic field. So those observations we took when conducting this activity, right? So I also did the experiment and you could observe the same scenario, right? Now from this experiment, what is the final conclusion that we can take? So the final conclusion that we can take is, we can write magnetic power of a permanent magnet depletes due to, so what are the factors, my dear children? Here we found out that several factors are going to deplete the magnetism of a permanent magnet. So what are those factors that we examined in here? Number one, vibrations. Number two, high temperature. Number 3, high magnetic field. Instead of high, I will use strong magnetic field. Strong magnetic field. Right. So these are the final conclusions that we can take from this activity. So we can say that finally magnetic power of a permanent magnet depletes due to vibrations, high temperature, and due to strong magnetic fields. Right. Okay. So in this part we are discussing the uses of magnets. What are the places that we use these magnets? So uses of permanent magnets first. Permanent magnets. So permanent magnets are used in mainly loudspeakers and speakers. So you know that radio, television, mobile phones, all of these instruments contain speakers, right? Small speakers to emit sound. So these speakers works with the help of a magnetic field. To provide magnetic field, these instruments contain permanent magnets, right? So permanent magnets are important in operation of speakers, okay, and also in loudspeakers as well. So the next one, in small motors, in small rotating motors, right? In smaller rotating motors, we use permanent magnets. A magnetic field is important for the rotation of a motor, right? You will be studying functions and these you'll be studying how does the motor is going to rotate in your higher grades. But remember, up to now a magnetic field is really important for the rotation of a motor. Then in some door locks, now I told you in the earlier chapters when we are discussing the basic things related with magnets, we discussed that door of a refrigerator contains a bar of a magnet which helps to close the door of the refrigerator. And in some pencil cases also there are some magnets which helps to close the lid. So in some door locks and door of a refrigerator contains what? These permanent magnets. Next one, in mobile phone covers, in phone covers, in purse covers, right? In purse covers also there are permanent magnets which helps to enclose the cover, right? Which helps to enclose the cover. Permanent magnets are being used. Then in bags also, right? In bags also, in the locks of the bags, there are permanent magnets which helps to close the locks, which helps to close the legs and which helps to enclose the bag, right? There are permanent magnets. Then in some toys also there are permanent magnets. You know that we use those built-in box sort of things, and those sort of things contain some permanent magnets that helps to there are some permanent magnets in those types of building blocks, not the plastic building box. There are some certain types of other building boxes, right, which a magnet is being embedded, and those building boxes can be attracted together to create out a certain type of different shapes of instruments. So in toys and other in smaller toys we use permanent magnets, right, to make toys also. Then the next one, in compasses, the most important, the most valuable use of the magnet is the compass when making compasses. You know that freely hung magnet is going to show the north and south directions. So therefore to make compasses we use permanent magnets. Then stickers on the refrigerators. Now there are some certain stickers which can be fixed to the refrigerator, right? We use these stickers as paper holders as well, right? So these stickers contains a permanent magnet, right? Then in pencil boxes also you can observe these permanent magnets. I told you earlier, to close the lid of a pencil box, we use a permanent magnet. So these are the places where we could observe the permanent magnets. Then here it is given that there are permanent magnets as well as electromagnets found in most of the small electrical motors. And now in some motors, there are permanent magnets as well as some electrical magnets as well, right? So, but there are some motors only with electromagnets. Now, there are some motors that has only electromagnets. So, there are only electromagnets. There are motors only with electromagnets as well, right? So, these are the figures of those electromagnetic motors and permanent magnetic motors, right? So, in earlier case, I told you that smaller motors use permanent magnets. So, most of the times, not just the permanent magnet, but electromagnets are also being used, right? Right, my dear children. So, we have come up with the end of our lesson. Then we discussed all the parts, all the theoretical parts related with the magnets lesson. Now let's summarize our lesson to study, to see what are the things that we have studied in this lesson. So let's see the summary then. So first of all, magnetism is a property of magnetic materials, right? Magnetism is a property of some materials. This is the first and foremost thing that we learned. Magnetism is a property of a certain material, a physical property. Materials which attract to magnets are magnetic materials. So we studied what are magnetic materials and what are non-magnetic materials. Materials which are getting attracted to a magnet are called as magnetic materials, and magnets which are not attracted to a magnet are called non-magnetic materials. Iron, nickel, chromium, steel and ferrite are some examples for magnetic materials. So here you can observe another material or another metal, chromium. Chromium is a metal, right? Nickel, I told you about nickel. Chromium is also a type of a metal which used to create magnets. So these materials, iron, nickel, chromium, steel and ferrite, are examples for magnetic materials, right? So these are the examples for magnetic materials. The area that the magnetic force exists around a magnet is called the magnetic field. This is called as the magnetic field, right? So the area which the magnetism is going to spread is called as the magnetic field. Imaginary lines used to denote the influence of magnetic field are known as magnetic field lines. So I told you that magnetic field is arranged as lines. These lines always runs from North Pole to South Pole. And also the most important thing is that these lines are imaginary, means that we can't observe these things from our naked eye when you keep a magnet, right? These things are imaginary. So the imaginary lines which used to denote the magnetic field is referred as magnetic field lines. Magnetic field lines. The direction of magnetic field is from North Pole to South Pole. So in earlier also I told you that magnetic field lines or the magnetic field always directs from north pole to the south pole. So magnetic field is from north pole to south pole. Right. Then a compass is important to detect magnetic fields. So to detect magnetic fields, we use the compass, because compass is also a type of a magnet. It is also made by using a magnet. Therefore, to identify different types of magnetic fields, we can use the compass. So compass important to identify or to detect magnetic fields. Right. So then we are discussing about the poles of a magnet. See, terminals of a magnet where magnetic force is concentrated. Concentrated means that's the area which has the highest magnetic power or the highest magnetism. So area which has the highest magnetic power or area which the magnetic power or the magnetism is concentrated are called magnetic poles. Magnetic poles. So magnetic force is concentrated at the magnetic poles. Magnetic force is concentrated at the magnetic poles. So there is a magnetic field on the earth. There is a magnetic field on the earth. It is known as geomagnetism. This is known as the geomagnetism. So we learned about the geomagnetism. We conducted an experiment to find out the geomagnetism. So geomagnetism is the magnetic power that can be observed within our earth. When a compass is placed near the earth, the direction that its pointer indicates is the direction of Earth's magnetic field. So always if our Earth has a magnetic field, then always when a compass is being placed, right, the compass is also always going to direct towards that magnetic field, right? So the magnetic field of the compass, so the geomagnetism or the magnetic field of our earth is the one which is responsible for the turning of compass needle towards the north and south directions. So there is a magnetic field on the earth. So earth magnetic field is the geomagnetism. So when a compass is placed near the earth, direction that its pointer indicate is the direction of Earth's magnetic field. The direction indicated by the compass is the magnetic north. Magnetic north. So you know that compass is going to turn to north and south directions of the earth. That north and south direction is not the actual north and south of our planet. If you take the actual north and south of the planet, then see, it lies a little northwestern to the real north, right? This magnetic north, that magnetic north is going to lie somewhat northwestern to the real north. If you take our planet's north is not the magnetic north. There's a certain type of an angle, right? Magnetic north always lie towards the northwest of real north, right? Then permanent magnets are made of steel and ferrite. Permanent magnets are made of steel and ferrite. Temporary magnets are made from soft iron. So we discussed that thing. Temporary magnets, to make temporary magnets we used soft iron, and to make permanent magnets we used ferrite or steel. Then contact method and electrical method are used to make permanent magnets. Contact method, electrical method used to make permanent magnets, right? We use electrical method and contact method to make permanent magnets. Then power of a magnet may wear off with time because of high temperature. So power of a magnet can be depleted. Power of a magnet is going to deplete, right? Due to high temperature, strong vibrations, and the influence of strong magnetic fields. Due to influence of strong magnetic fields also, the permanent magnets would deplete its magnetic field. So the next one, power of a magnet can be retained for a long time by proper storage. By storing these magnets in a proper way, right? Means that if you want to keep the magnetism for a longer time period, we need to enclose the magnets by using a wooden cover. And it is important to cover up the two terminals or the two poles. If you are given with a horseshoe magnet like this, I'll take this thing somewhat up. So if you have a horseshoe magnet like this, right? We can cover up the terminals by using a metal cover. We can cover up the two terminals like this. Or else if you have a bar magnet like this, you can place another bar magnets like this so that they would attract to each other, and you can enclose this system by using a wooden cover, right? Means that we need to cover the magnets so that the magnetic field is not getting scattered. We have to enclose the two poles of the magnet so that the magnetic field is not getting scattered here and there. If the magnetic field is going to scatter here and there, then after some time period, then the magnetic field will be lost. So therefore, it's important to store magnets in a safer place like this by enclosing their magnetic poles. When placing or when placing these or when storing these magnets, it is important to enclose their poles like this and keep away for a certain time period, right? And also it's important to cover up the magnet as well so that the magnetic field is not getting scattered. This is the way of storing a magnet then. So by storing a magnet like this, you can keep the magnetic field for a longer time period. So power of a permanent magnet can be retained for a longer time by proper storage. Permanent magnets and electromagnets are widely used in day-to-day life. So permanent magnets and electromagnets are widely used in our day-to-day life. Most of the times, electromagnets are used to lift weights like containers and to scraps, and also in cranes we use electromagnets, right? So this is our lesson, the magnets lesson. So my dear children, I hope that you got a sound knowledge about the magnets lesson then. So in the next chapter, we'll discuss some questions related to magnets lesson.